and government spokesperson Rene Emmanuel Sadi yesterday at the Ministry of Communication. Get to read details on that on page 3 on Cameroon Tribune for today. We move over to developing the Lake Chart area. It talks of 18 billion CFA francs budgeted for 2024, and we talk something else with the Cameroon Bar Council exams. It says final sprint. You can find a story on that paper for today. Let's take you to the next paper, Cameroon Echoes of William Dibaitue from Dian. The paper reports on back in his palace. Senator Lekunze Nembo delivers Bia's message of peace development to Bamumbu population of Libya. Get to read that story on that said paper for today. At installation ceremony, new Baboso victims of Javier Bobda. You can find that story on that paper for today. Press governance for this morning focuses on the Cameroon Water Utility Corporation known as CamWater. It says the CamWater, the CAP and priority for 2024 as stipulated by the Director General of CamWater, Blaise Munsa. Get to read details on that on press governance for today. And we move over to the Bachanga Community or Council. It talks of the budget increase of that council from the West region to 4% that will be used for local development in that council area of the West region, according to press governance for today. From press governance, we take you to the Punch. The Punch says Nigerians seek relief as states get 3.3 trillion naira allocations. Get to read that story on that said paper for today. Senate to raise custom to 5 trillion naira revenue targets, and in that said paper, Tinubu Abiom don't month as Jami Solix dies at 81, and in that said paper, the paper talks of police cop Kogi Forest as gunmen abduct 14 Abuja bomb travelers. And we remain with Nigerian publication. This time around, we take you to another Nigerian publication, Vanguard. Vanguard for today talks of abducted Jeeps ABC buses passengers. Kidnappers won 15 million naira to free my wife, victim's husband says, according to Vanguard for today. Nigeria loses 890 billion naira as gas flaring rises to 18.9% to 275.2 million. Get to read that story on that said paper for today. Sport history favors Super Eagles over the Bafana of South Africa as the semi-finals of the African Cup of Nations in Ivory Coast will be taking place tomorrow. Let's move over to another tabloid from Nigeria, The Nation. The Nation reports on insecurity. NCC security operatives working to tackle challenges. EFCC freezes 3 billion naira traced to Sarika's brother's account in that said paper. According to that said paper, protest rocks Mina, and we move over to Edo 2024. 9 PDP aspirant rejects delegate elections. Get to read that story on The Nation for today. From The Nation, we come back to Cameroon with the next paper of Le Point. Le Point for today talks of Celestin Kecha Cortez development. It says the rapid bus is just unreasonable. That is what you can find on the Rapid Bus project headed by Celestin Kecha Cortez, as the paper is castigating that as unreasonable, according to Le Point for today. And also Le Point, the paper reports on the impact of prices of the increase of petroleum related products in the country. What impact holds for motherland Cameroon? Get to read that on page 4 on that said paper for today. We move over to Nouvelle Horizon newspaper. It talks of Maurice Kamto, or the opposition leader who gives his own sake. You can find more on that paper for today. Fecafoot Samuel Etofis tenders his letter of resignation, though it was rejected by the executive body of Fecafoot, as they say he is going nowhere. Get to read that story on Nouvelle Horizon newspaper on Samuel Etofis' resignation letter as he wants to resign from Fecafoot presidency. You can find that story on that said paper for today. Media, Yves Bicot, the chairman and CEO of the French television network known as TV5 Monde Afrique, is in Cameroon to tender their sincere apology to the Cameroonian authorities after they misrepresented the flag of the nations to that of the Anglophone separatists over the group stage phase of the African Cup of Nations in Ivory Coast. Get to read that story on Yves Bicot and his accompanying delegation that has been led to by Cameroonian-born Denis Epote, who doubles as the Director of Communication, Marketing and Sales of TV5 Monde. Get to read that story on page 9. We move away from that, we talk something else this time around with the next publication of L'Activateur. L'Activateur comes back to the TV5 Monde television delegation to Cameroon. It says Denis Epote home. Get to read that story on that said paper after they were receiving audience by Cameroon Minister of Communication and Government spokesperson Rene Emmanuel Sadi yesterday at the Ministry of Communication. Get to read that story on L'Activateur. Ministry of Commerce, the paper reports on the Minister of Commerce Luke Maragwa Baraga Tangadang, who received New Year wishes from close collaborators of his yesterday at the ministry head's office. Away from that story, let's take you to the next paper for today. That is the Guardian Post. The Guardian Post of Christian Gar for this morning, a report on 2025 presidential elections, greed, self-centeredness, stalling a possible opposition coalition. You can find that story on the Guardian Post newspaper for this morning. Sodekotong to acquire 1,700 to acquire 175.9 million CFA franc worth equipment to boost production of that cotton company in Garoua known as Sodekotong. MTN Cameroon gets new chairman. You can find that story on that set paper on page 12. Editorial, pay teachers as it is done in other countries. That's the editorial of the Guardian Post on page 4. We come back to the French language tabloids this time around with Investic Info. The paper reports on the inauguration ceremony of Promatal, who confirms her leadership in sub-Saharan Africa. You can find that inauguration ceremony that was championed by the head of government and Prime Minister of the Republic of Cameroon, the Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Guti. You can find that story on page 2 and 4. 2024 and Sodepa, the paper reports on the projects of goodwill that sets states organization will be executing in this year of 2024. We take a stop over with Le Quotidien report on the readjustment of prices of petroleum products. The paper reports on the clarity of government as 6 members of government actually came out in a press conference to give the clarity of the increase of the set petroleum related prices that has recorded an increase. We remain in that paper of Le Quotidien this time around with the reforms at the Ministry of Civil Service and Administrative Reforms headed by Joseph Anderson Lee. The paper reports of the activities of that ministry in order for them to keep on pushing towards greater perspective, according to Le Quotidien for today. From Le Quotidien, we take you now to Info Show. Info Show for this morning says the government have no empathy for the strata for the weak when it comes to the prices the increase of prices of related petroleum products. You can find that story on Info a show for today. And Song is in danger regarding his contract as head coach of the Cameroon national team. We move over to this other story following the alert of transporters that they too will be increasing transportation fare following government's action on the increase of fuel products. You can find that story on that paper on page 2 of Info at Show. We take you now to the environmental and agricultural newspaper known as Eco Outlook. Eco Outlook for today says fuel prices surge triggers fresh fears of inflation rate hikes. You can find that story on Eco Outlook for today. Kope Maninguba division hails Paul Biya for appointing their illustrious son Ngole Philip Ngwese as Cameroonian High Commissioner to Canada. You can find that story on that said paper for today. Outgoing Tunisia ambassador bids farewell to the Minister of Planning, Regional Development and Economy, Alamin Usman May. We take you to talk something else. Multi-million cocoa chocolate industry flourish in Europe, USA, while African farmers agonize over paltry benefits. You can find that story on their agricultural and environmental newspaper of Eco Outlook for this morning. We move over to Khmer Press. Khmer Press for today talks of the anger of Akere Muna following the increase of petroleum products by the government of Cameroon. We move over to the Indomitable Lions squad that failed to find herself through the round of 16. The paper report on the selection of the players done by Rigobert Song, as the paper gives the lapses of some players that were called up to represent Cameroon in the 34th edition of the African Cup of Nations in Ivory Coast. We move to Mutation of Thierry Diaga for today. Mutation reports on Cameroon, the affair of Rothschild. What's that all about? You can find that story on page 5. And promotes 2024. SGS will accompany some 25 small and medium-sized enterprises to promote 2024 showcase in Yaoundé. And prices of petroleum product hikes and the danger that looms around Cameroon. We move over to something else. This time around, I think we'll make a stopover with Tribune d'Afrique talks of the economy. The Banking Commission of Central African States, known in French as COBAC, honors Congé-Cam. You can find that story on that said paper. Elections at the helm of the presidency of the defunct GICAM and ICAM that have merged to give birth to GICAM. It says, while Celestin Tawamba wants to be candidate for the presidency of GICAM. You can find that story on that said paper. So the Cotton will invest 180 million CFA francs in the cotton company in Garoua, according to Tribune d'Afrique for this morning. Away from Tribune d'Afrique, we talk on decision made by the some competent health authorities, Cameroon government, in their strides against the fight against HIV and AIDS, how it has drastically reduced in the country. Let's make a stop over with a code or Divine Ngala Tombo, the sub-director of agriculture at Minpia, who wants the ambition of an increase of 25,000 tons of production of fish in 2024. You can find that story from the Ministry of Fishery and Animal Husbandry, known as Minpia, with the sub-director of that establishment, Divine Ngala Tombo. Move away from the gentleman to talk something else. The General of Division of the French Army, Joseph Dury, is in Cameroon for a walking tour with the firefighting brigade elements of the nation. We move over to Generation Libre for this morning. A report on the Minister of Transport, Jean-Ernest Masina Ngale Bibi. He fixes the cap for 2024 as the Ministry of Transport will be making sure road accident and other related transportation accidents are reduced in the year 2024. You can find that story on Generation Libre for this morning. We move over to the Youth Conference of Cameroon. It talks of the result of the pilot phase that was presented to the public Republic over there in Yaoundé. We take you to cooperation ties between Cameroon and the Spanish nation, our kingdom. The paper reports on that in the health sector. Matilda for today talks on the urbanization of Cameroon, and Dr. Sali Bani will implement the vision of the head of state in the town of Marwa following the visit of the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Celestin Kecha Cortez, to that part of the capital city or capital town of the Far North region. You can find that story on Matila newspaper for today. Cameroon Water Utility Corporation, CamWater, comes out with 84.65 billion CFA francs for 2024. You can find that story on that paper of Matila newspaper for today. Reinforcing the capacity of the CPDM political party in the Lekki division of the Central Region. The paper report on Andre Eyebe Aisi, Cameroon's Minister of State Property and Land Tenure, who galvanizes supporters and sympathizers of the ruling CPDM political party over there in the Lekki division for them to stand behind President Paul Biya to call for another mandate of the statesman for the 2025 presidential elections. We remain with elections this time around with Maurice Kamto, who comes out with a discourse of a real opposition and unique candidate to challenge the CPDM political party in the 2025 general elections. And in that said paper, the visiting high delegation from the French language news television network Vision TV5 Monde is in Cameroon to make amends. And we move over to our international tabloid. We start with Metro. Metro says King has cancer, making reference to King Charles, who have been diagnosed of prostate cancer. Get to read that story on the said paper for today. The Times for this morning says King has cancer. That's another tabloid you can read from the United Kingdom of the Time newspaper for today. Daily Express for this morning talks on King starts treatment for cancer. That is what the Daily Express for today says. We went for that to talk of Monarch is wholly positive about his care for undisclosed cancer, and went for that to say Prince Harry has spoken to his father, and he will be with him in the coming days. The Guardian for today talks of King Charles diagnosed with cancer. Palace says some people have been kind and others have not. You can find that story on Felicity Huffman, who talks on that, on her life, on that said paper for today. For today talks of King Charles diagnosed with cancer.